All agents are currently assisting other customers. Please stay on the line and your call will be answered in order.
It's from the Madame.
Mariner! Oh, all good. I love it, actually. All part of the ambiance.
How dare you judge me, bumpkin?
Oh, what are the odds? Are you seeing this?
I'll let my blade do the talking.
Oh, come on!
How come you're always the one getting shot?
Let's see what the scanners have come up with on the cloud's composition. Eric's, where are we on that chart?
Posting Enterprise position, sir.
The opening where we were drawn in seems to have closed. But there's another opening up there.
The devil's anus.
Anus? Wait. Who's anus? Guys, we're coming up on the devil's anus.
Inside, explain, within me.
I am very small, within you.
Explain.
A small thing.
Within me.
Within you.
So small, too small.
I'm going to command at the same time. You will come.
Necessary?
Yes, very.
Proceed.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what are the odds? Are you seeing this? Oh, come on!
Captain, the planet seems to be breaking up. Its mass is definitely growing smaller.
Spock, is it possible the cloud consumes planets?
It seems a logical assumption, Captain.
Today's Nerd Fights was brought to you by the super secret Ferogan video game project. Oh, really? This is a real thing. This is actual footage. I don't know why either. And also by these guys, because I guess for some reason they want to support Salty. Those sons of bitch.
Computer and program?
And we are on a little late, thanks to somebody on the panel.
Someone with good news.
Not Canadian nor from Tennessee.
No, although but he's pimping the Canadian shirt today.
I'm representing Canada with my man, the GOAT,
right, Brett
the Hitman Hart.
No, client stuff. I've been working with a client out of Little Rock, Arkansas, and
Bill Clinton.
No, in fact, actually, hey, dude, it's the site, Jason. It's the site I showed you.
Oh, nice, excellent.
Yeah, so they like that, and we're gonna do. So basically, there's gonna be like 2 additional different designs in that site. Plus,
sweet.
They're having me redo their logo because I don't know if you remember the logo. It's complete trash, and I love making logos. It's one of the things. It's one of the services I offer. It's one of the things that I do. And I gave her my concept for a logo, and she loved it. And people seem to forget this. The most important part, really, of a logo is iconography. Not to try to get on like some nerdy like art thing right now.
Yeah, you're gonna just ruin the show. But go ahead.
Well, so for example, like Salty Nerd. Eventually, this is just an icon. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it doesn't say Salty Nerd. You see that in the ideas, Salty Nerd. Back when I had Fat Beard Studios. Well, I usually have a logo somewhere around me, but I guess not right now. I had the beard logo. Nike's got the swoosh.
Right. You just haven't come up with anything for us yet.
Well, we'll talk. I actually have. Wise ass.
I don't see a logo.
I just haven't shared it with you yet. Because, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Anyway, so
you get your work out there for people to see, and it's free.
I get you, man. I trust me, work's already. I'll show you after the thing if we don't go too long. So I did this pitch, came up with the idea for an icon. It fits perfect. It represents community. I don't want to say the name of the client because I just bashed their logo and stuff. But so now now I'm going to be redoing their logo as well, which is just more money, baby, more paper, baby. Mm-hmm. And then I get to make their business cards, making their QR code, setting up their donation thing so like I just like it just. So I was just working, man. I was like, yeah. Now, as far as watching this episode, I did want to watch it a second time. I didn't get to. I watched it once last night. Funny behind the scenes story for everybody. I watched the episode. I make the thumbnail. I could have swore I emailed it to Michael, go to bed. I wake up this morning, and Michael's like, dude, where's the thumbnail? I was like, dude, I emailed it to you. He's like, dude, no, you didn't. And I was like, oh, shit, no, I didn't. I thought I did. Here it is. So.
However, the proof is in how fast you can email it, right?
Right. Yeah.
I did. I emailed it. Like,
it has been in the past. It's like, oh, I thought I sent it to you last night. Here, I'll send it to you right now. And then, like 3 hours later, I get it. Yeah.
That was not the case today. It was immediate.
No, that was not the case today. I will.
Okay.
I will grant you that.
Yeah.
Today, you emailed it right after you said you thought you sent it. So.
Yeah. No, because I remember making it last night. Because I remember I thought you were going to critique it. Because, like, one, it looks too similar to last week's thumbnail with like, the way I set it up. But two, I mean, he did give me creative direction. Or is it him?
Oh, yeah, backwards. With the grabbing Spock, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I did that,
Which was hilarious because that worked out with some of the clips that Mike ended up putting in the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah.
Wow, Gorilla. No. Actually, yesterday was probably the worst birthday I've ever had in my life. But I didn't get to see,
Really? So you hated hanging out with us, huh? Thanks.
No. But I didn't get to see my kids, man. Like I told my ex-wife, the only thing I wanted for my birthday was just to hang out with all 3 of the kids. And my oldest came over. I mean, she came over and my oldest came over. But the 2 youngest, the 17 and the 14-year-old, didn't come over. So I was bummed about that. And I didn't have a party, didn't do anything, just did the celebration thing with you guys. But honestly, Michael has the patience of Job. God bless him. Okay.
Because I put up with you.
Alrighty.
Hey, he used my name in vain about 6 months ago, so I can draw it out of him too. Do you remember that?
I used your name in vain?
You used my name in vain.
I don't remember. What do you mean?
That was the day I accidentally caused your sound to not want to work at all.
Well, you always cause technical problems. That's your thing.
And I was
Patrick,
sitting
thank
there
you
listening.
Thank you for the happy belated birthday. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I was
If you
sitting
really
there
want to,
listening.
if you feel like sending me a belated birthday present, link is on my chat.
You know, shut up. I
think we're hold up. I think we're $478 away from the software we need to bring you guys the show you deserve. On
assuming that somebody gets the logo and stuff done so that we can put it.
Bro, you want to see the logo? All right.
No, you can show it to me
no,
later.
I'm pulling it up now, bro. Talk your shit. Keep going. I'm looking it up.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Is it as iconic as the Salty Nerds one?
I don't think you'll like it, but it's fine.
Well, if you don't think I'll like it, why did you make it?
Because you know what? You guys talk. I'm looking this logo up file.
So yeah, that was that night that was the day, or the infamous day of, hey, make your RAM go faster.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember that. That was
that night, and all I heard all of a sudden as I was listening to you guys, because it was when you were still doing the Monday nights, and you went, Jason freaking Price.
Uh-oh. On that, you know he was mad if he said that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where the hell is it?
And Professor Brainy Specs, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a little bit, Jeff. It says, what a waste of a new episode of Trek. Is this even Star Trek? It sure doesn't feel like it.
It's the best Trek since 2009.
And Darren says, Salty is such a greedy cuss. He can't stand the idea of Danny making a little money on a shared stream. Yeah, that's it, Darren. Well, I am greedy. I'll give you that much.
Hey, man, isn't that one of the 7 deadly sins?
I'm not Catholic. That's
all the sins are deadly if you're not Catholic.
Yeah, I'm not, fortunately, Jesus died for my sins. And Professor Rainy Speck says Prodigy is the best Trek since 2005. I strongly disagree with you on that, because I think this feels more like Star Trek than Prodigy. Prodigy felt like, hey, let's put kids on a starship and play Star Wars in the Star Trek universe.
Kinda, yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong, I don't think Prodigy was a bad show. So, in fact, I think it was probably one of the better shows of New Trek. It just didn't feel very Star Trek.
Oh no!
Did you delete it?
No, I accidentally clicked open, and because of the type of file it is, because I haven't exported it out yet, because I'm still working on it. It's opening.
70 layers and everything else.
So yeah, just.
Or what is it, opening in Photoshop kind of thing?
Oh wow! It even made you go garbled for a second. Yeah, it's like,
no, I knew it would. But no, all right.
Yeah. It was only Wars for like 2. Yeah.
It was
the
Star
characters
Wars
still felt kind of.
Yeah. It was Star Wars anytime we weren't focused on Janeway.
Yeah, it's Star Trek Clone Wars.
Yeah. Janeway was good. I actually, if the entire show was based on Janeway, on that, even though that ship was the ugliest ship we've seen since the Enterprise D, if it was just Janeway on that ship doing adventures, I would be totally cool. You know, and the problem is that the studios think you need to dumb down Star Trek to make it a kid's show, and you really don't. Look at Star Trek the Animated Series. I mean, I know we're only 3 episodes into it, but Star Trek the Animated Series is anything but dumbed down. You know, so. And no, Patrick, Orville.
Yeah, to that. Well, I brought that one up because my comment on that is season 1 of the Orville was the seeming promise of that statement being potentially true, except the show started going down and down, and season 3 was just such a disappointment. Yeah. And considering that season 4 of Lower Decks is just coming out of the gate swinging all the way, we're up to episode 4.
They got the mystery ship that's blowing things up, and
I'm way more interested in watching this than probably any Star Trek in a long time.
So,
well,
anyway,
it's not finished, so I'm only going to give you a tease of the icon. And you might not like it, and that's fine.
You're still garbled
not,
a bit, but
yeah.
Well, it's because I'm working in Photoshop.
Photoshop's a monster.
That's why you need GIMP, man. GIMP is not as bad a resource hog as Photoshop.
Look, I've been using Photoshop for longer than like over a decade.
No, I
you know
understand.
what I mean?
Yeah, I think GIMP is still missing a couple oddball things though here and there.
All right, so let me export this. All right, and this is just the icon, and I don't want. I almost kind of don't even want to share it.
And Professor Rainspecs has taken you to task that thinks that Orville season 3 is awesome. Now, Professor, you already know my thoughts on Orville season 3. I mean,
if anybody saw me in Salty review season 3, you should be well aware of our thoughts of that. Probably
even and many people did not like season 3.
And I love season 1 and 2. Like I was just.
I thought season 1 was Orville's best, and it's funny because the further they got away from the humor, which seemed like Seth MacFarlane was like, because I remember when Orville first was being teased, people thought, oh, great, it's going to be Family Guy in space, or or something like that. But it was,
which I probably wouldn't have had a problem with, but it ended up being like it felt like
it was a lighthearted version.
Well, it felt like what it was. Like if this was like if TNG followed like one of the less important ancillary ships, this would probably be the kind of crew you'd have,
right?
That's what it felt like.
But then I think they were like, Seth MacFarlane got the idea, oh, I don't want to be known for just doing comedy, and so he tried to make it more serious. And the more serious it got, it just became so heavy-handed with its political messaging that it became.
I don't even know, right? Like he ruined it. He just like it.
And the nihilism was the biggest issue.
Yeah, I hated the nihilism. That was like, every time they'd say like life is meaningless, and when if you become a spacefaring race, you just need to cast off religion and realize that death is the end of everything, and like, oh no.
Okay, so I've uploaded it to one of my dev servers. No, seriously, hold up. No, because I don't.
The comment on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
GIMP is missing something.
Yes,
I didn't see that. So, guys, go to the private chat.
Yep.
This is just a proposed icon.
So it's a link to.
Don't share it. I don't want you sharing this. That's why I'm not I don't know.
It's not public yet.
Okay. Yeah, it's not public. Don't. Yeah, I just want you guys to see it, and you can say, "No, it's crap. Start over."
It's an interesting direction.
Okay,
I kind of like
he doesn't. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it.
No. I do like the direction you're going with it. I'm the only thing I'm not sold on, and it's kind of like you were talking about with the logo you have on your hat. There's a word on it.
There's a word on it, so fair enough.
Is there a way to make that without the word, to get the message across without having
I'll
so just think about that.
I'll marinate on that next time I pull it up to work on. But there, work. I did want you to see work as it's done. Like it's being done. Like when I have a little bit of downtime and I just want to because the cool thing about what I do for a living is I actually enjoy it. So like I would be just making fan-made shit in Photoshop or whatever anyway, if I didn't have to do it as a job. So when I'm decompressing from a job, I'll work on personal stuff, like whether it's this Nerd Fights or some shit for me, So
because Nerd Fights isn't important enough for him to think of that as part of his job.
Actually, there is something we all didn't think about yesterday.
Oh, I know.
And I totally didn't think about it.
What's
we
that?
we forgot, and you were even ASMRing with it.
I know.
We were naughty yesterday. So I think before we do anything else, we owe them.
So I was actually. I know. I'm looking up an email. She emailed me actually. Hold up, let me pull it up.
She's watching. Where's my spot?
No, it wasn't that bad. But
Are they changing their official? Are they changing their official slogan to "It's like crack, but you drink it"?
No.
Because if they do, I want a quarter every time they say it.
Yeah, that's exactly why they won't. So it says, okay, so the email says, hey, we finally got our play back in stock. I'm waiting for the IT folks to let me put in a Canadian address because we stopped shipping to Canada when we were experiencing issues with our distribution center. We have changed to
I was going to say that might not be an inappropriate description.
Oh yeah, we have changed to a new distribution company that has no problem sending orders to Canada and not charge us an arm and a leg and actually get delivered. I will send Jason his product, Wake and a Shaker, ASAP. How are you doing on product? And then, of course, how are some, ads going? So I don't think she's watching, but like, I think it's funny that I got this email.
I think, I'm sure that she would love my comparison of her product to crack.
Right.
That would probably just like make them think that.
So, Jason, you heard it there. Be on the lookout. Supposedly,
so your crack powder's on its way.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then the experiment will begin.
Yes.
Soda stream.
You will have to. What we'll have to do is once we all have some Wake, we're gonna have to schedule a time where we'll do like a 24-hour stream and just drink Wake.
I don't know about 24 hours.
You see that, you wuss. Come on, that's the whole point of those streams is to push yourself to the limit, and at the end of it, just go, I can't take this anymore.
Napping is good too.
We could take shifts. I got to work on doing a show by myself anyway. Although, Jason, if you're ever bored on a Sunday morning and just want to, hang out while I try to talk about wrestling, it's so weird. I'm not good at live
funny you
streams
mentioned that. I
myself.
actually thought about that a little bit, only because there's nostalgia stuff that I still, as you know, I've sent you the odd thing. I kind of romance about some of the stuff from the past.
Yeah.
So
no, and I always appreciate when you send me that because I watched both of those. What's this? Stop demanding Danny to do things. He's only willing to just wait patiently in one of your houses with your expensive champagne and endless supply of torches and pitchforks. Actually, it's not Jason that was demanding I do things. It was Michael. So.
No, but I get the blame though because I'm the easy target.
And he's the IT guy, so you always get mad at the IT guy.
Yeah.
So am I?
You get to be up first for the hot takes. So what do you think?
Well, that's not fair. I don't want to go first, but that's fine.
Whatever. Wuss.
So I hate. So full disclosure, if you go to supportsalty.com and you're wanting to watch the three of us have our usual live reactions to this week's episode of Star Trek: The Animated Series, One of Our Planets is Missing. I'm sad to say you won't get to see that. What you'll get to see is something even better. So go over to supportsalty.com right now, spend your $5, and you get to see me and Jason on a far more superior platform reviewing, or no, not reviewing, but live reacting to an episode of
It is a far superior platform that you guys were using, and that's the platform we want to get.
And it just so happened to not have Michael on the episode. So he hasn't uploaded it yet, I'm sure, because he's not in it. Probably hasn't even watched it yet.
I have.
But eventually,
Thank you, Dirk.
Yeah.
I've been out. I was in Portland. Let me compare. I'm going to compare two people.
He was on a break.
Look. At the beginning of this year, I knew two people that were almost on the daily blackout.
See, Ariel gets it about my birthday. That's right. Ariel, start making it rain. Damn it, Jason, you got to teach me how to do this.
Will you let me finish a sentence?
Sorry.
All right. I knew two people that were blackout drinking on the regular. One of them, of course, is Danny. The other is my daughter. She was just in really bad shape. And so both of them have come clean since then. So big round of applause to both Danny and my daughter for getting sober, which I know is a difficult thing to do. And and it's been an uphill battle sometimes, but they both did it. And now my daughter has moved from Portland to Tennessee. We arrived in Tennessee Monday.
Hold up. I got a question. Since you're talking, can you be large or can we all be the same size? It's really weird just focusing on me
We-
while I talk about your
What
daughter. Are you trying to pimp me out to your daughter or something? It's just
No,
like,
definitely not.
Okay. Okay then.
So she arrived in Tennessee on Monday night with when our flight came in. Monday night at like 9:30, 10 o'clock p.m. It was a little delayed, so I think it was closer to 10. And so I want you to think about that. That's only 3 days ago, right?
Yeah, and by the way, did you appreciate my response to it's not like I could have visited you while you had a 4-hour layover thanks to the terrorists.
Yeah, you could have.
Back in the day, I could have. No, you would have had to. I would have had to go through TSA.
Yeah, you got to go through.
And they went.
All the
I don't even
security
think
and all that nonsense.
Yeah, or you would have had to come out to the common area and then go back through TSA. But either way, just to get past. Well, all right.
By the way, that's a nice thing about having a wheelchair. I get priority in the TSA and all that. So I get to bypass the lines. But anyway, so 3 days ago, my daughter lands in Portland with me and my wife after this short trip. Now, in less time than it typically takes Danny to make a thumbnail for one of these live streams.
Whoa! Are you casting shade my way, bro?
I am.
What I'm hearing?
My daughter got a job. And
nice.
Today,
well, that's the difference between men and women. A girl just has to wear like a nice low cut shirt, do this number, lean in, and then
she interviewed and did everything.
Get out of tickets.
Phone. They never saw her.
Oh, okay.
And then, and today was her second day. We've been in town for 3 days. Today was her second day at work.
Man, it's just good news all around on the U.S. side of the.
I guess.
Meanwhile, I can't get Danny to make a freaking logo.
Well, how much is she making an hour? Will you?
I don't know.
Pay? I'll do.
But you know what? Hey, how are we supposed?
Well, she's flipping burgers at McDonald's, so I imagine it's only like $14. Oh no, in Tennessee, you probably got anyway.
14, man. Everywhere I saw, you could get like $25 an hour pumping gas in the States these days.
Yeah, it's stupid. And so anyway, so I'm just.
I'm sorry, Yosef. Apparently, I'm pissing Yosef off because I keep interrupting you.
Yeah, well,
even though he literally ends every stream like.
Nice to see that at least I have the Slovakians on my side.
Yeah, that's
fine. And wow, the user Taylor Swift greater than Disney Star Wars. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
Welcome to the channel. Icon. I don't think I've ever seen you before.
But I just love your name, so I just had to put
somebody waving and wearing headphones, but they're blue.
Yeah. But welcome Taylor Swift greater than Disney Star Wars.
We can hope if and when we get over to EV Mux, we can hope that those actually make it into the comment stream.
Yeah, because it's right.
By the way, so the overlays, do we have to have the $50 version for overlays? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember.
I have no idea. Yeah. I think you do. Yeah, because no. The free version, you have no.
It's not
overlay
free,
option.
but it's the same price.
The lower tier version, you get like a handful. Like it's more than one.
I know you get some of the stuff with the lower tier version, but like I want to make sure, like if we switch to the lower tier version before we can afford the upgrade, that it's actually worth it. Because if we don't get the overlays, that to me is the best thing as far as where the show's going to look.
Yeah, I'll look at that over the next couple days.
Brian, you guys can see them in the chat, but when one of you guys share that again.
Yeah, let me.
If you look on our screen, Brian, we don't get to see him. It does like the
See, everybody can see that's what we see. If we
that's
don't
what we
also, see. Yeah, which is right now why I keep both the stream chats up for any of the channels.
Oh yeah, I've got
I've got to keep one
StreamYard here. I've got Michael there, and I got my channel here. So
I do the. You could pop out those chat streams, and I put them into sticks on the on the window, so that I keep them a lot closer. So now I've got I've got a column, and a column.
All right, so back to your hot take. So So
You didn't
yeah,
even get to start. You started.
Yeah,
talking
well,
about
you were
your-
talking about how awesome it was that you didn't have me around on Saturday.
Oh, that's right. And I was pimping your supportsalty.com. So, anyways,
I'll get that posted.
I'm going backwards
today or tomorrow.
here. So my hot take on the Star Trek the animated series, one of our planets is missing, and I really wish. Actually, all joking aside, Michael, I wish you'd have been a part of it. Jason and I think, agreed a lot on. Wow, this seemed to be the inspiration for V'ger. You know, it's very, very,
the cloud, yeah.
very similar.
A lot. No,
Yeah,
the
like,
big mind meld to explain.
Yeah, and Spock mind melding like he did, and
the fact that he never really actually touched V'ger, like all this, like
right.
Yeah,
and the fact that he was talking to V'ger almost from all the way from Vulcan.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, like it's amazing that this guy, whoever wrote this, we talked about it on.
He directed 14 episodes.
He directed of the original series. This was the first time he got to write for it. And like, and I read this because I even brought my book out. You remember I got this book?
Right.
And it goes over each episode and has fun little factoids. So I actually shared it for the Patreon members.
And by the way,
that kind of good, you go to supportsalty.com.
For those of you that don't know, he also is officially in Star Trek because he plays Jackson Roy Kirk, the creator of V'ger. That's a picture of him. That's a picture of Mark Daniels. Jackson Roy Kirk. So if you're ever wondering what the writer of this episode looks like, that's him. So
I actually really enjoyed the episode especially, and I even said, right about now, Michael would be saying, and this is a children's show. You know what I mean? Because it was very highbrow for a children's show. It was very good. It's very rewatchable, very Trek. It's easily in my top 5 episodes of the animated series. So that's my hot take on that. As far as Lower Decks, again, I did want to watch it a second.
Something green.
Yeah. Something old, something green.
Or something old, something old.
Yeah. They're playing off the whole wedding thing because Tendy's family. Look, how many episodes of Lower Decks do we get? I meant to look it up, but
I think it's 10.
Yeah.
Is it?
But
Is
let
it
me
only
double
10?
check.
See, we got 25-minute sitcom style episodic television. So this is like, if you're watching the Star Trek version of Friends or something like that.
Right.
And we need more episodes if you're only getting 10,
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it's 10 because as soon as I went there's 5 seasons listed as supposedly going to happen, and the total count of episodes is 50, so it's 10 per season.
Thomas Potts, I don't know if you realize, I'm talking about my top 5. I was talking about the Star Trek the animated series episode, not this Lower Decks episode. So I hope you understood that. But anyways, I like that we got backstory on Tendi. I like that it was one of these. It felt like that classic Star Trek in the way where we picked a character because this is episodic television, and we just told you a boatload about this character. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it felt very Star Trek in that way to me. Now that I think about it, I really did want to watch it again. I wish it took its. See, I don't know. I was about to say I wish it took itself a little bit more seriously, but do I really? Because some of the over the top stuff is so good.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah. So but no, I enjoyed this episode much more than I did last week's. So I'll go. There you go. There's my hot take.
Right. Fair enough. All right, Jason.
So I'll flip it around and go the other way. My hot take on Lower Decks is this show is the show that now makes me sad that there's all these strikes and we're not going to get anything new for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really am enjoying watching this show. When Mariner gets stabbed the second time, I about lost it. And that was when I messaged Mike and said, you've got to find a way to squeeze the whole, why do you always keep getting shot from the Expanse? And then he didn't even, and he never said anything. And then whatever it was, 10 minutes later, and then she gets hit with a ricochet knife. And I'm like, You know, it's just it's too good to not enjoy. And like I said, I keep saying it, and I just got to get around to it. But I got to get back and burn through all the episodes of season 1, 2, and 3 that I haven't watched, and I've seen none of season 3 yet.
Thank you so much for the tip from the not so annoyed Slavic guy. Says for the suffering,
super tip.
It says for the suffering you have to endure during the streams with Danny and Jason. Just kidding, just kidding. I love the chemistry. Thank you so much, Joseph. And you know what? If I didn't love Jason and Danny, they wouldn't be here right now. Because it's my channel, dang it. So
get off my lawn.
But yeah, continue on, Jason. And thank you again, Joseph. I appreciate it, buddy.
So yeah, it's so much fun, and I haven't seen any of season 3, and I really need to get onto that. I haven't watched.
Who did we review that with? If it wasn't him, because I know we reviewed it.
You guys might have been on. You guys might have been on Salty Saturdays.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I think you were just with the Salty Nerds guys. It wasn't.
Okay.
Me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see.
But you know, we could always.
I still need to watch season 2.
Yeah. So you know, one thing we can do, since we on Saturdays we have plenty of time to kill, we can watch some of the back episodes of Lower Decks. In addition to watching Star Trek the Animated Series.
Yeah, because I want to see those Riker episodes you've been telling me about, man.
Oh, the Riker episodes.
Oh, I've seen one of the Riker episodes, and man, I
haven't seen any of them. No.
the cartoonists lean all the way in on all the Riker-isms from the actual live action show with the leg and the chair
and Frakes just plays it up. You can tell he loves it.
Yeah. So for me, for Lower Decks, this is officially making me sad that we're going to be not getting content for a while. As for animated series, this episode shocked the crap out of me. For such a short episode, it was a really good episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I can't remember how many times I kind of stopped and said it while Danny and I were doing the watch along, but yeah, I was really impressed with that episode. Far more so than the crazy tentacle porn infected.
Was there no tentacles in this one? No.
There were.
There were cloud tentacles that wrapped around the.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah.
There
were noodly appendages.
We need to have a
necessarily.
We need to have a tentacle. We need to have a tentacle counter.
We're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to. Yeah, do a tentacle counter on Star Trek the Animated Series.
So no, I was pleasantly surprised. I very much enjoyed it, and I don't care what anyone says. They went back to that, and that is the well for a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did they ever? Anyone who says otherwise is lying.
So let me say that, I'm sorry that I wasn't there on Saturday. Obviously, I was in Portland, fetching my daughter and all that. But, and by the way, I didn't have a chance to talk to you guys before the show about this, but I will not be here a week from today.
Excellent. You're going to be able to go on your trip?
No.
Oh.
But my wife... we're working on that. Hopefully, we're going to be able to. That's a whole other thing. We had a family situation I haven't really talked about, but where we're trying to get to another state. But this isn't that. This is my daughter and my wife are going to a concert, and the concert is in Nashville. And my wife.
Wait a minute. You're telling me you're going to miss a show because your wife and daughter are going to a concert? Did I just hear that right?
Yes, you did.
Because he knows what the safest choice is.
No, I know it's like their safety is more important to me than you guys. Sorry.
So what are you gonna do? Wait a minute. Are you also gonna go to the concert, or are you just gonna like?
I'll be sitting in the car.
Wow. All right. Well,
all right. It's gonna suck for me, but they want to go to this concert.
You could join us from your phone.
I may try depending on, because remember, if I'm near the concert hall, the cell service may be completely overwhelmed.
Too many humans.
Yeah, but I will try. But however, I just want to warn you guys. So I will be there on Saturday this week, but I will not be there on Thursday next week. What I may try to do, just for you to use, Jason, since you know how to do everything, is I'll record like my hot take and stuff so that you can play it in the window when the time comes.
Oh, for the animated series,
right? Well, and even for
you do both.
If I do Lower Decks early in the morning, I could get that done too.
Yeah, that's true. You can always put the file on. Well, if you don't put it on here, you can always put it on the share that I have with you too.
Yeah. So we'll figure something out. So I can at least get some kind of word in. But to the hot take part, so for Lower Decks, let me say this. I know Professor Brainy Specs hates Lower Decks. I know that I have other friends that really hate this show. But, you know, what the thing is that the way they describe it, and the reason I don't think they're being fair to it, is they're describing it like it's these, like the very short treks. Like like Lower Decks is this vulgar hatred of Trek. It's like this terrible perversion of what Star Trek's supposed to be. To me, that's better represented by the idea of these very short treks. Like, I don't know if did you see the newest very short trek?
No, I haven't watched that. I thought we were gonna.
We're gonna watch all. We're gonna review them all at the same time. But like,
okay.
But I will tell you, they're not going to get raving scores from me. Like this new one, they'll make you laugh, but they make you laugh in the same way to me that Spaceballs makes you laugh. They make you laugh because they're insulting Trek, not because they
not in the fun way that Lower Decks does it.
Right. Like in this new one, right?
Worst Contact.
Yes, Worst Contact is the new one, and it's a planet of people whose customs are centered around picking their own noses, and then like they do things like shake hands with boogers all over their hands, and when they make food, the secret sauce is boogers, and it's just, you know, disgusting. Lower Decks isn't that. Lower Decks, I think, is a love letter to Trek. It's made, you know, like Mike McMahon is a big fan, and he pokes some fun at things, but he's not saying Trek is stupid. He's saying Trek is great, but let's not take it too seriously. And I mean, but if you look at some of the stuff, like if you look at in Lower Decks, the whole thing they did with the pack lids, and now they're doing with whatever this ship is that's destroying everything in its path. They have some actual serious stuff in there too. It's just that the crew of the Cerritos is not the crew of the Enterprise. They're the people that are average at their job. You know, they're the people that they're not the best of the best. They're just people that get by. And that's what makes the show fun. And so it's not, and yes, there's some very improbable things that happen, like the fact that they happen to have Nomad in their storeroom for some reason. But I do think that they're just trying to have fun with it. And honestly, I don't find it insulting. I find it hilarious. And honestly, and we've talked about this, especially with the Voyager episode, the ship porn in Lower Decks is really good. And in fact, like the opening shot of that Orion ship, that was a cool looking ship, and I've never seen anything like it. I think that's an original design.
At most, I'd accuse it of having some influence from that not the Daredex, but the one that we see in Nemesis.
Oh yeah, the Romulan
warbirds
that they didn't say what they were called. Yeah,
and there's debate from here to the end of the galaxy as to what they're really called. Yeah,
and here's the problem with that statement, Professor. You say the real Starfleet would not have a crew like that. Not on the flagship. But
hey, best foot forward, right?
Yeah, but let's be real here. There are, somewhere in the United States Navy is the ship with the worst crew.
Oh, to which, by the way, actually, I watched a video. We might as well drop out of one big person here. So I watched a video recently by the very entertaining Fat Electrician with regards to the luckiest crew in the entire U.S. Navy. And let me tell you, it wasn't luck so much as these guys were beyond bad, and somehow no one died. I don't know if anyone's...
Thomas Potts with $4.99. Thank you so much, Thomas.
What
he said? It's funny. He said, "Soot chat." Is that like super chat and Klingon? And exactly, Thomas. That's my problem here. Is we all make fun of Star Trek tropes, but when Lower Decks does it, some people think it's insulting. And Professor Brainy Specs, I'm not trying to pick on you, but since you're here, and I know that you tend to feel that way. And correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm misrepresenting you, absolutely correct me. But you might find the show insulting. But how many times have we talked about some of the inconsistencies of Trek or some of the tropes of Trek? Not just on this show, but on any show on YouTube.
Right.
We all do it. It's just that Lower Decks, puts characters in the middle of it and has some fun with it. And I don't have a problem with that. Now, and honestly, and I've told this, look, I have a very good friend. I'm not going to call him out here, but you guys would know him if I mentioned his name because he's a regular on these streams. But I'm not going to mention him by name because that wouldn't be fair to him. And he hates Lower Decks just like Professor Brainy Specs. And I was talking to him the other day, and he said, "You know what? I finally stopped watching it, and I feel much better now." And I said, "That's what you should do. If it really bothers you that much to where you're angry and you're tied up and you got the knot in your stomach about how much you think it, don't watch it. Please, for the love of God, it's not good for you." You know what I'm saying? Not because I'm saying don't watch it because it's my show. I'm saying don't watch it because if it's making you angry and making you and tearing you apart, don't do it because I care about you more than I care about the show.
Exactly, which is why I stopped watching Discovery, and is exactly why I'm not going to start rewatching it with you.
And he's gonna watch Discovery.
I don't know.
But LDG, looky, I messaged you earlier. I don't know if you got back to me, but I'm on the show now. But I would like to get with you afterwards, if possible.
So yes, so my wonderful example of the most powerful Navy in the world during World War II, not being perfect on every ship. I want to make sure I think it's a Fletcher. Yeah. Fletcher class destroyer called the William D. Porter had a crew that fired torpedoes, live torpedoes, at the USS Iowa while it was carrying President Roosevelt.
Oops.
Oh, wow.
They fired.
Not only that, they also accidentally dropped freaking depth charges during that same mission. And guess what? They were supposed to be radio silent the whole time, and because no one knew what was going on, they even broke radio silence because they wanted to make sure people didn't start trying to look for a submarine.
If that doesn't sound like Boimler, Rutherford, and,
yes,
Mariner, I don't know what does.
And here's the world's luckiest part from the Fat Electrician's video. And by the way, as a side note, if you really want to have yourself a laugh, you got to go watch it because he's like 30 minutes of misadventure from these people. When they took their ship, their Fletcher class destroyer, off to go and fight the last of the war against the Japanese, they shot down a kamikaze fighter successfully.
Yeah, but where's I guess, never mind.
And it went under the boat and exploded and broke the keel of the ship. And the ship sunk.
So
and everybody survived. So these guys, and believe me, there's way more screw ups in the story.
Everybody
and everybody survived. Okay, so these are the biggest screw ups in the U.S. Navy. And the final moment when they actually contribute to the war, their ship gets blown up, but yet everyone survives. So if this is not the USS Cerritos, yeah. And that's
to look
real
that up.
life and real
Yeah.
peril and real lives on the line. So yeah,
Right.
no. We could dream all we want that the Federation is some absolutely perfect place. No.
But the thing is that if that were true, then look at some of the characters we've actually seen in Star Trek. We've seen people that screw up. We've seen people that are less than perfect. Barclay.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
And Barclay was on the freaking Enterprise. You know, so
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely had a few crew members that just they kind of walked off. Ro Laren.
Right.
You know.
She wasn't on it as much as I thought.
Yeah, but you know, she was a traitor, so you know, she should have been shot.
Well, no, they only send you to penal colonies with, you know, Lieutenant Paris.
Yeah, they'll only shoot you if you go to Talos 4
or 5 or whatever. Yeah,
or is it Talos? I thought it was 4.
4 or 5. Well, Talos in general. Yeah.
But anyway, but with this show, yes, if you hate the comedy, I understand, I get that, but you know, obviously I don't. But look at that ship.
It's a pretty cool looking.
That is a cool looking original design, and it's funny because the Cerritos, the hero ship of the show, is the dorpiest looking ship on the show, but that's on purpose. Like the Enterprise D, and I know I give it a lot of hate, but I think the Enterprise D looked like crap compared to a lot of the ships we saw on TNG. But that wasn't intentional. The Enterprise D was supposed to be this big, graceful, beautiful ship. I just hated the design.
You know what's funny is so much so that the Raven class ship that we're going to see on Orion, is a better looking ship than the Cerritos.
Yeah, the Cerritos just looks stupid, but it's supposed to.
Yeah.
What's a penal colony? Random Menace is someplace you don't want to go.
Although I'm pretty sure he spelled that wrong on purpose in that.
It's what Spock was describing in his mind meld at the beginning of the beginning of the episode.
Hey, do you have a model of the fat one?
Yes.
The
fat one. Right here. Right next to my model of Deep Space Nine. Actually.
Deep Sleep Nine?
Oh, hey.
You know, that's what Frakes calls that show, eh? I still haven't completely figured out why, but he calls it Deep Sleep Nine.
Well, it's a more cerebral, serious kind of religious space show, you know.
Maybe.
So yeah, the closer we get to this ship, the more interesting I think the design. Like, what are the spikes for?
Yeah, all of a sudden it looks like a Reaver ship.
Right. Down at the bottom, I get that the claws there are to salvage because that's what Orions do.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe they just wanted to look metal.
It could be, or it could be that the ship is meant to, like, if you pull up right onto the hull of someone, those spikes could puncture the hull. You know, that could do some serious damage. And so these Orions are down there sorting through the plunder. So if we look around here, well, we do have a Batleth, a couple of TNG phasers. I know that she threw a TOS phaser in the junk pile. We have a Vulcan Harp right here. Looks like we've got a Lirpa over here. So you know, they're doing pretty good with all the assorted junk. And they're talking about what kind of things. Oh, look here, we got a phaser rifle.
I love how she throws the old
TOS thing into
phaser, just like flump.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just kind of hanging around talking about how they want to be big badass pirates. And then all of a sudden they come up on the weird looking ship of
pod ship, yeah.
That's been showing up in bits and pieces of several of the episodes. And like in the other episodes, all their systems go down and then it just blasts them into oblivion, which is, I mean, again, look at that. That's just like nothing. They got there. There's, I mean, I don't know what the heck they're hitting them with, but it hits hard.
Yeah.
because that thing ripped right through not just this Orion ship, but they showed it take out a Romulan ship that quick, a Klingon ship that quick. So whatever this thing is, it doesn't seem to matter what species you are. Your defenses are nothing compared to it, and none of your systems work. So you can't get shields up or anything.
I really hope they do something really twisted, funny with, the Packlids with that ship, though.
Like the Packlids are the one group of people that can fight them.
Yeah, just by some weird coincidence.
All right, so on the Cerritos, Tindy and the gang are shocked that they actually got their work done, because as ensigns, you never get your work done. But now that they're lieutenants, they can actually finish their workload.
She said something kind of like abbreviated. Where are they? They're like junior.
They're lieutenant junior grade.
Yeah, so I think she said like JGL.
Yeah,
or something like
that's what you call in the military, lieutenant JG.
Okay.
Which is just short for junior grade. And so then the captain comes in and says, guess what? You're going home for your wedding, or for your sister's wedding. And Mariner kind of invites herself along with the Vulcan chick, who, by the way, just to remind everybody, 2 weeks ago, Danny said, oh yeah, she's not going to be a regular. I'm just pointing that out.
You've watched a lot more Lower Decks than I have, so there you go.
Yeah, but I've seen, she only appeared in like one other episode. So
yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. So they're gonna go to the wedding, and Thomas, thank you so much. Oh, and we got me and Danny dancing together.
Oh, awesome! Happy super chat.
Wow, Dan. I remember the one where Lower Decks episode where they showed the other Lower Decks on a different species. Do you remember if they are the ones that have been destroyed? I was wondering about that. Like, yeah, they showed the Lower Decks of the Klingon ship, the Romulan ship, and the Borg cube. Or no, it was a Klingon ship, a Vulcan ship, and the Borg cube. So as far as I know, I don't know that Klingon ship was the same one. But good. I'd have to go back and rewatch Three Ships to know. That's the episode you're thinking of, Thomas. Is Three Ships. It would be worth checking out to see if those are the ships that are destroyed.
But if one of them is Vulcan, then that's already wrong.
Right. It's the ship that the new Vulcan character came from. That was her first appearance, was that episode.
No, but I mean, so far ships that have been destroyed.
Right, but the Klingon ship could have been.
Okay, yeah.
Could have been from that. There you go, Danny.
Mariner's leaning over a table.
Oh my!
You are such a weirdo.
I know.
So meanwhile, and Rutherford and Boimler are somehow besties now. And like beyond best friends. They are just like, I'd say get a room, but they already have one.
Yeah. Actually refer to themselves by like Brommerford or something like that.
Yeah.
They've got like the dual name thing. Yeah.
They call themselves Rutherford. Now I'm trying to reckon. Do you know what that thing is next to his model of Deep Space Nine? That looks really familiar.
It's like a docking station to one of my computers, but
I mean, I see the action figures from before. One of his collector's plates is back there, but I'm trying to figure out what that is. That looks
by some twist.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is.
Oh, I know what it is.
Wesley Crusher's tractor beam.
I just brought it up over here, and I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Wesley's tractor beam. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense because engineering, right?
Yep. Oh, I didn't see that poster was for Quarks. Look at it. Look at the corner of the poster there.
Oh, in the close-up, yeah, that completely blew past me.
Yeah, so that's that poster you purchased from Quark. So
nice.
So but then they get in their first little bromance fight because they both want to water the bonsai tree. And so they start fighting over the bonsai tree. And, they actually start physically fighting here. Which, I mean, you got to give this one to Rutherford. I mean, he's a freaking cyborg. I don't know how Boimler thinks he's going to win that one.
It's not a fair fight,
Yeah. And Professor Brady Specs, I guess you guys weren't paying attention if you didn't notice the Quarks poster. Well,
I thought it was an LGBTQ rights poster for Deep Space Nine.
Everyone's invited to Quarks.
And I guess technically it's not a poster, it's the box that the model came in.
Yeah, that's true.
From this angle, you can see that.
Yeah.
So I guess you weren't paying attention, Professor Brainy Specs, since it's not even a poster. All right. So meanwhile, back on Orion. So apparently Orions ride rhinoceroses instead of horses. I do kind of like that they're adding to Orion lore because we just don't have much.
No.
Yeah. Other than the fact that Orion females have these pheromones that can control you. I do like, these guys are all bowing down to,
yeah. Mariner's like, uh-oh, we're screwed. Next thing you know.
Yeah. So Tindy's just like, oh, guys, come on, it's nothing. And meanwhile, they're being carried around and everybody is like worshiping her. And she's like, oh, we're only like the 5th richest family.
Which honestly, if you think back to the setup,
it's kind of like Jason, actually, I only have 8 houses, So.
Yeah. That
was for you, Ariel.
The setup actually came all the way back over from Strange New Worlds, because her grandmother was on that science ship.
Right. That's true, yeah.
And their reaction to people knowing that incredibly, interesting name, the whatever Winter North Star business.
Yes.
That's like a little bit bigger than just, some random science officer.
Right. So the family's been important for some time.
Yeah, exactly.
So then they explain that her sister's been abducted before the wedding, which is kind of a traditional thing, apparently, within Orion culture.
Well, that's what she said, yeah.
Yeah. And, which is another little bit of lore, because we know the Orions are very pirate-centric as far as the way that they do things. I do think it's interesting.
Do we know that? I thought that was a tasteless stereotype that Tendi wasn't trying to perpetuate.
Well, that's why Tindy doesn't like talking about it. But the truth, but it's funny because it's like, it sounds a little bit like pirating. You say, no, we're not pirates in here, but they're obviously pirates. I mean, they dress like pirates. they fight with swords.
Right back. Sorry, I gotta take this.
And of course, Danny abandons us again.
Off to go make money.
Yeah. And Ariel, of course, thanking Danny for his comment.
For poking at me.
Yeah. I would say this episode is woke because they made all the Orion male cucks, but then again, they established that in Enterprise it's a matriarchal society.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, I don't really like that term, gorilla. So
yeah, that's a little actually. Well, that's actually kind of wrong.
Yeah, because they're not. They're submissive, but that's not the same thing.
No.
And the reason they're submissive is because the females give off a pheromone that allows them to control men.
Yes.
And actually, that's not just that goes all the way back to the original series. And in fact, all the way back to The Cage, when they say that no human male can resist an Orion woman.
Yeah.
So that's nothing new. And I personally, I mean, like, I wasn't a big fan of the way they did that on Enterprise, where they actually turned it into a matriarchy. But at the same time, they just took that and went to the natural conclusion with it with this show.
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
No.
Blame Danny. I picked it up from him. Yeah, I don't like that Danny uses that term much either. So yeah. Except Tucker. Well, that's because Tucker's system was changed after being pregnant. I think that's what it was. I just watched.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What a horrible episode.
Yeah.
So the but no, I think that the fact that they're kind of expanding on Orion culture and lore, yes, they're having a little fun with it, but at the same time, what are we learning? That the ultra rich Orions like being treated and pampered like ultra rich. The Orions are definitely still using money. Wealth is still a big deal to them. And they believe in, traditional piratey things, including like the abduction of the bride before a big wedding.
Yeah, all the silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
That fits right into it. With the crazy pirate games with the deadly whatever it is bug.
Yeah, the death bug is murder. And all that stuff though is, yes, they play it a little for laughs, but that's not because it's really that funny. It's because we have Mariner in the middle of it. If Mariner and I can never remember the Vulcan character's name, but if Mariner and the Vulcan chick were not there, it wouldn't be funny. It would just be her doing her thing. It's the reason it's funny is because there are funny characters involved.
Yeah.
Not because it's slapstick. And
and honestly, it's at this point, it's beyond question that Tawny Newsome, who does Mariner, absolutely can nail her line delivery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to say, by the way, I saw a little thing with Tawny and the girl that does the voice of Tindy there. And they were saying it's about time they give us a live action Lower Decks movie.
Well, look, I'm telling you, the girl that does Tindy
could do it with the makeup. Tindy could do it. The problem is that then you have some of the other characters, like the guy that does Ransom. I can't remember his name, but he could do
Jerry
it.
O'Connell. He could do it.
Yeah, he could be Ransom. But then you start to run into problems when you get to the other characters.
Mariner's mom, that would be fine. Brad, of course. Rutherford, no, but you know what? With all the gear on his head to be the cyborg, you could still make that work.
And thank you to Lynn. I can never remember that for some reason. By the way, did you notice that that the Orions all have normal Western American names, but with D in front of it?
Yeah.
So Deanna, Dylan, then what was the dad's name? Oh gosh, they just repeated something.
They don't have all the credits up yet on IMDb,
but
Devanna is Vanna is in Vanna White. Devanna Tendy, right?
But I just thought that was hilarious that they were just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna put a D in front of the name and call that a day.
Yeah. The actress that does the Vulcan's voice, she's got a face that if you pulled the hair back right, it would be a dead ringer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, so you could do it. I think you could do it. I think to a great extent, the cartoonists go out of their way to try to match as often as they can. Because when you think about a lot of shows, it's quite surprising. There's exceptions, of course, but it's quite surprising how much some of the regular characters in certain shows look like the people that do the voices.
And Ariel, they never. This is one thing they haven't actually gotten into, even on this Lower Decks. We don't know the upper echelons of how the government of Orion works. We know that there are powerful families. That Tindy happens to be in the 5th most powerful family.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual rulers of Orion, is there like a monarchy? Is there some kind of elected senate? Are the warlords just like is Tindy's clan in charge of a 5th of the empire? That we don't know. That would be nice to get into a little bit. But unfortunately, we didn't get there. And LDG says no Ducat because D names. LD. By the way, LD, how's that presidential run going? Hope well. I'm still going to vote for you, as long as you don't drop out by the time it comes around to Tennessee. And Jason is in charge of the Orions. Well, then the Orions are doomed.
Well, that would explain my 8 houses then, yes.
And it would definitely explain their problems with communications. I'm sure they do that on purpose. Model the animated character as a voice actor if possible. Well, I'm sure they do to a certain extent because it would. And honestly, after seeing the live action Boimler and Mariner on Strange New Worlds, I would not mind seeing more of that. I really, I had a blast with that episode. I think it was probably the most fun episode of the season. Mm-hmm. And if they wanted to do that on the regular, I would think it was great. Like and it would be like one of those silly things about Lower Decks. Like they keep ending up going through time portals that just happens to bring them to the Enterprise while Pike is the captain. Yeah. And he could be like, really? You guys again?
No, that was easily my favorite episode this season. I kind of wish they'd have held it a little later because I feel like they blew their wad kind of early.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I could even have fun and have it be just randomly 2 different people each time.
Yeah.
And Ariel, I can hear Danny just fine.
He was muted for a moment.
Oh, okay.
But he's good now, obviously.
All right. So I can't afford to pay the bills. I'm not getting the supportsalty.com. Remember, go to supportsalty.com before I get in trouble.
So Tindy is having to rescue her sister. Meanwhile, Rutherford and Boimler are still fighting over who gets to water the tree. So they decide to settle it and just go to the holodeck and have some fun, where they're going to do a Mark Twain adventure, except that both of them dress up as Mark Twain. So now they got to fight over who's really supposed to be Mark Twain.
Yeah, having a Mark Twain off.
Yeah. And so they both are going at it there. Meanwhile, back on Orion, we go to the Hump Club. Which I do like. The name of the place is the Slit Throat, I think it was, or something like that. And I like that Mariner's like, well, I like that they just don't bother to pretend, she's like, going to call it what it is. Yeah. And now this, to me, you were talking about how, did they get the message that they took things too far with like the sex scenes and stuff in the other seasons? I think that this scene is a resounding yes to that, because this could have had total graphic sex everywhere. And
they kept it under control. Yeah.
Right. This could have been one of those scenes where I'd like, well, we got to skip all this to get, but it was definitely a hard PG-13, but it was just PG-13. It was people making out and implied things that were going on, but it was not graphic. I did think it was funny that they threw a trans Orion in there. Yeah. And the way they did it, I don't know if you noticed, but it was an Orion wearing a dress and having 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
And it was like, really? Okay. So they go to the bartender, that's funny. He's like, who do you think you are? And then he recognizes her, and of course everybody bows down to her because
even the other bouncer guy is freaking out.
Yeah, because she's the 5th most powerful person on the planet. There's the trans person I was talking about. It's like, come on, that is so bad. If I did that, people would call me transphobic, if I made that picture. And of course, there's Danny's favorite back there. So look at the 2 girls pushing their boobs together.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that. Thank you.
Look at Mike encouraging it.
But this is as far as it goes. And while it's a bit much, at the same time, it's not super graphic, and it makes sense given what we know about the Orions.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a problem with it. So then Mariner takes a knife to the shoulder.
The first one, you know.
Yeah. Completely out of the blue. And it turns out to be the person they're looking for, but she's not going to talk unless they play the Death Alien Bug game.
Yeah.
It looks like a great game. You take a shot to turn on your force field to prevent the alien death bug from biting you.
But you got to do it at the right time.
Right. And so, yeah, if you, so they're fighting with the alien death bugs. Meanwhile, the two Mark Twains are starting to get along, being Mark Twains together. So after the death bug experience, they leave the club. And she gets some information out of one of the dudes, and they find this chick. I don't remember what her name was. Do you have it there?
No, but you know who I could have sworn it sounded like was voicing her, but I know it's that she's not alive anymore. I'm pretty sure she's not alive anymore. It's that older comedian lady that did the stand-up all the time back in the 80s. Doris
Paula Poundstone? I don't know.
She did some voiceover appearances on some of the old Scooby-Doo cartoons too.
Oh,
Phyllis Diller.
Yeah.
That's who it reminded me of. I don't know why, but it just instantly reminded me of Phyllis Diller.
And that's an interesting question. Does a trans Orion pheromones affect their cells? So
my therapist is always telling me I should love myself, so they're probably the most balanced individuals out there. That's the
I do love this knife when it comes in.
How dare you judge me?
Right here.
Everybody dodges out of the way, and
yeah, that's the one that got you there.
Yeah.
Yep, there's knife number 2.
Yeah.
And so they managed to get the information they need. Meanwhile, they're called up to the bridge because they're dealing with this dude because they want to scan the nebula at the same time the Cerritos wants to scan the nebula. And they're having almost the exact same fight that Boimler and Rutherford were having. And
I love the line from that guy, though. We don't trust Starfleet data. I'm reading it off word for word here. We don't trust Starfleet data. It's too nuanced and thorough. I'm sorry.
And Ariel wants me to go back to the guy showing off their muscles. Well, you super chat enough, and Danny will take off his shirt.
Only if you send it to my channel.
No, if you send it to his channel, then I'll take off my shirt, and you don't want that. And it'll make you puke. No, I won't send it to take off my shirt, so don't bother.
I was going to say, but money's money.
If you give money to both of us, maybe Jason will take off his shirt.
It's like a weird combination lock. You got to try to find out who loses their shirt.
But if you give money to Jason, then both me and Danny take off our shirt.
No, that's no point. I'm not. No.
This has just gone all wrong now.
All right, so Rutherford and Boimler come up with the insane plan of having them get along by dressing up as Mark Twain and going into the holodeck because that's what worked for them. This is the perfect example of why I hate politicians. Because this is what politicians do. They'll have some cockamamie thing that they did and it worked for them. So, hey, the solution is to force that on everybody.
When all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right. Ariel's like, you got a deal. You know, you got to give the money to
I'm
me.
gonna go beg my dad.
To me, I need it more. He's got a wife.
You better stop. You're gonna be on the show anymore. All right, so
does that say something? Never mind.
I'm sure it does in Orion.
Oh, the plaque or whatever it was that you were staring at.
No,
Yeah, they've got a lot of
They got
super
graffiti going on.
scribbly Orion text everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure that some of the ultra uber nerds would be able to figure some of this out. You know, some of it, like there's a couple of windmills on here. I mean, yeah, I don't know what I can't quite read the tags here, but be great would be like if they did something like Sabine was here or something. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously this is like a junkyard, and they get the message that she's somewhere in this junkyard, so they're looking around for her. And then she thinks, ooh, let's go to where my favorite Heidi place was, which is the Raven.
Yeah.
Because why not? The Raven's there.
Well, it's not the Raven, but it's...
Well, we don't know. I don't think we see anything to identify the actual ship.
No, but they do. I went looking once I saw it, and it's canonized as that's the class name of it.
Right.
So...
which is dumb. But,
gotta call it something.
So she talks about how she always fantasized about being in Starfleet as opposed to being a adventure pirate. And
Yeah, well, actually, no, it was more. The line just went by here. It's actually, guys, I have something to come clean about. I wasn't just a regular Orion teenager.
Yeah,
I was trained to be a syndicate assassin.
Yeah.
And they're like, duh.
Yeah, we knew that. You know.
Yeah.
And then her sister finally shows up, and it turned out her sister abducted herself. And so because she was mad at Tindy for abandoning her and forcing her to take on the head family assassin role when that should have been Tindy's job. And so she decides, of course, that she's going to throw a knife. Now, Mariner, being smart, was like, Mariner's like, nope, not going to take any chances. So I'm just going to hide behind hide behind this console here, which you think that's the end of it until she throws the knife. And then ricochets, and there we go. Let's see if we can. And yeah, so there's knife.
It's going in the same spot too.
Yeah,
right? It looks like.
It's the exact same spot.
Yeah.
That way the animators only had to draw one hole. So then she takes out her sword, and Tindy grabs a piece of rusty metal, and they get ready to fight. Meanwhile, they try to rectify things by showing him the bonsai plant and how that gives him peace. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And so he eats it.
I love the tiny little circle they basically drew with the two of them solving their problems about the bonsai tree, then misusing their solution, and then what they fixed gets eaten.
Yep.
But it fixes the problem.
It does fix the problem, but now their bonsai is gone. Meanwhile, Tindy and her sister have a pretty good fight scene, actually. I mean, if the sword play in this is not half bad. Only thing you need, honestly, if Clone Wars and Rebels was animated like this, I would like it a lot better.
Yeah, I was about to say it would be way more accessible to way more people.
Yeah. I know this isn't exactly top-notch animation, but it's a lot more watchable to me.
Yeah.
And so they fight until finally Tindy loses, and then they make up because really they love each other, but she wanted the job all along. She was just mad at Tindy for not giving her the choice. because she loves being an assassin. But I could never be an assassin as good as you. She's like, but you just totally kicked my butt, you know.
Yeah.
So now they're friends again. And Her to Pray 5, Kuroga welcomes your money. No. First of all, in Kuroga, don't you guys use rounds as currency? So that's not even compatible with the super chat system. So don't bother. Just send me your money. I'll get it to Kuroga eventually. Which bird? I got to talk to you about. I got to digress for just a second. I'm using your Kurogan rounds concept in the game that I'm developing, and it's going to be so cool because you earn rounds by doing things for you, but rounds are also your ammunition. So if you use up all your rounds, the game's over. So you got to be careful. You can't just like blow all your ammunition all at once, because if you run out of ammo, you can't buy more because your ammo is your money. But you can earn ammo by taking out different targets and stuff like that. And of course, for some reason, all the targets look suspiciously like me. All right, back to the show. So then they decide to hotwire the Raven and fly it back home. And yeah, like you said, that even this busted, broken old ship looks better than the Cerritos.
Yeah.
Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything. No, I was looking on the pad to see if there's anything about the ship name, but no.
I like the music. Like, as much grief as people want to give this show about being like parody or whatever, it's got good.
I think it's a solid show, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I really do. Yes, it's silly at times, but I think it's fun to watch. Well, I never noticed. Look at this giant bald dude in the
oh,
he's a big one. Oh, you know what? He's that dude from Enterprise, the wrestler.
Oh, the Big Show? Could be.
Yeah. That's who that's probably supposed to be. All right, so they get ready to do the wedding ceremony. They show up after they crash land. Everybody's happy. That's a pretty good beauty shot of the Cerritos, but it still looks
stupid. It's still a terrible ship.
Yeah, it's still an ugly ship. And then, and they're looking at the wedding pictures. I don't know if you caught it, but Mariner says, "Oh, and that's where I got stabbed again." So
yeah, I did catch
there was
that.
A fourth stabbing that we didn't see.
Yeah.
So everybody's happy, and meanwhile they're going to solve their differences now by being Mozarts, because they're not allowed to be whatchamacallit, Mark Twain's anymore.
Yeah.
And the end. And we get the Cerritos going off into the sunset. And that pretty much wraps up Something Old, Something Green. So you want to do scores for that, or do you want to wait until after we do one of our planets that's missing?
No, we can go ahead. Last week we've been doing the per show thing, so
we did the score show.
Yeah, go ahead and give your score.
All right. So, like I know that Jason said this earlier. I think that Lower Decks is, even though like conceptually I like Strange New Worlds as a better show, but this season at least I think Lower Decks is coming out of the gate stronger than Strange New Worlds did. It's the most watchable current series going right now. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. And while none of the episodes have achieved true greatness, they haven't done anything bad at all. And so I'm going to give this one another, I think what we've been getting with 7, I'm going to give this one another solid 7. This is a really good show that is just consistently really good. And I enjoyed it once again. I enjoyed it just as much as I've been enjoying it. And I'm looking forward to next week, even though I won't be on the show to talk about it. And Jason.
Yeah, another excellent show. Because this is a comedy parody love letter show, that's what I base my scores on this, and this is a very solid 8 for me. I really like this episode.
Oh, you gave it an 8.
Gave it an 8.
It absolutely entertained me the whole way through. And maybe it was just because yesterday was a rough day, and today watching this episode was a great little bit of laughter.
Gave you the feel goods.
And it gave me the feels right when I needed them. And, you know, so biased review, but for me, I really enjoyed this episode.
And thank you so much for Twinkle Teaches. Happy birthday month, Danny.
You sent it to the wrong channel, but that's fine. Whatever. How is that happy birthday to me? It's fine. Anyway. So
see what, it's your turn, Danny.
Yeah, okay. So like I said at the beginning in my hot take, I really like how this episode felt like an old TNG episode where they focused on one character and gave us a little bit more backstory, not just on that character, but on their species as a whole, the Orions.
Right. We learned a lot about the Orions.
Yeah, and it was a fun episode. I didn't feel it was too over the top. Like there are two very comparable scenes in this week and last week's show. So last week, you're in the storage room with all kinds of Easter eggs that seem to have no reason or purpose to be there. Where in this week's show, we had a similar scene at the beginning with the pirates, where it made sense because they're pirates and they're stealing stuff, So like you could have a lot of extra things, Easter eggs and whatnot around. I didn't think it was a great episode. It's definitely a good episode. I did enjoy it more than last week, so I think just based off that alone, I'm going to split the difference and give it a 7.5.
Yeah, so our total score would be about 7.75.
Yeah.
So there we go. It was a solid episode.
Yeah.
So I think we can all agree on that.
I wouldn't give it anything less than a 7, even if I was, having a more normal week this week.
Right. So then we get to what, honestly, I mean, this is the show that nobody watches, but everybody should, because they don't realize as bad as, as I go off on the Clone Wars animation style being a turnoff and keeping people away, this show has that in spades, because it looks like crap, but episodes like this, holy crap, this is good.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right, so we get, this is one of our planets is missing, and a nice little beauty shot of the Enterprise to start out with, and they're heading out to the fringes of the Federation. This is the most remote system in the Federation, according to Kirk's log, and they detect this gigantic cloud, which is some 800,000 kilometers, if I remember correctly, or is it 80,000? You have the
it just went by in subtitles here. 800,000.
Yeah, so it is 800,000 kilometers across. Huge thing, and it's entering in the solar system and consumes an entire planet.
Wow, where have I heard this before?
Right.
Where have I seen this before? Wait a minute. Oh yeah.
And if this does sound vaguely familiar, you might remember this is the guy that directed the Doomsday Machine. And so just to point that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And V'ger had entire systems stored in its data banks.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that it's well, anyway. So Goat Boy is, of course, back on the scene. So good for you, Goat Boy. And so Spock and Kirk come to the conclusion that the cloud is actually consuming planets, and they're kind of worried because there's a Federation colony out there, and what are they going to do? So the Enterprise heads out at warp 8, and by the way, notice they're consistent on the animated series. Warp 8 is the maximum speed of the Enterprise.
Yeah,
in an emergency. So I do like the fact that even little detail things like that, they don't have Kirk say, "Oh, go to warp factor 12" or something, and to intercept the cloud. And we get yet another shot of tiny Enterprise next to giant thing. This seems to be a reoccurring theme in the animated series now, because this is 2 out of 3 episodes have a tiny Enterprise next to a giant thing now.
Yeah.
And the Cloud then reaches out with its cloud-like noodly appendages here, and then basically grabs the Enterprise, making a 3-for-3 tentacle porn.
I'm about to say,
in
yes,
Star
tentacles.
Trek. There we
Before
go.
it was cool to do, they did it.
Yes, before tentacle porn was cool, it was all over Star Trek the Animated Series. So, yeah, they invented tentacle porn. Who knew? Who knew? So, the Enterprise is pulled into the Cloud, and and Spock figures out that the Cloud is alive, that it's attempting to digest the Enterprise, and so they're trying to keep shields at maximum and everything, but it's draining the ship's power. These things that are floating around are basically, according to Dr. McCoy, they do the same function as teeth. Their job is to grind things down into smaller bits to be digested. But fortunately, Kirk gets the idea of spraying antimatter from the sensor dome. Who knew you could do that?
Right.
And that works. So then they contact Bob Wesley. Who remembers Wesley?
He was captain of the Lexington from an earlier episode.
Yeah, Commodore Wesley, yes. It was in command of the USS Lexington and the Ultimate Computer.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Yep. And that is Bob Wesley. So he retired
now
from
he's
Starfleet.
like a governor now, right?
Yeah, he retired from Starfleet and is now the governor of this colony. And so they're like, oh crap, there's a giant cloud's going to eat your planet, better evacuate. And he's like, well, we can get I can't remember, a few thousand people out of millions.
I think it was like 5,000.
Yeah, it was something like 5,000 people. Yeah.
Right. And I do like the fact that it's funny, because you wouldn't think this show, of all the shows, gets scale better than most of Trek and all of Star Wars. Because when they talk about evacuating a planet, it's like, yeah, we can get like 5,000 people off the planet with what we've got. And there's millions upon millions of people on this planet. And this is just a colony. Because usually they'll say, oh, well, there's like 3,000 colonists on that planet. Well, who cares then? It's like...
Well, I think the thing that they do in TNG and a few other episodes, even in other series of shows, is they always magically don't have a lot of colonists.
Right. But here they actually state, okay, there are millions of people.
Yeah.
And which I really, really do like the fact that they get the scale correct. Because you think about it, things like the when the Romulus system was being destroyed, people were like, well, why don't they just use all their Romulan warbirds to evacuate the population? You have if you had to evacuate the population of Earth right now, there's 4 billion people on Earth or whatever.
8, but yeah,
8,
who's
okay,
counting?
good, yeah. Sorry.
And if you used the fat one, and that thing only has a max capacity of 15,000 people.
Right. How many trips would you need?
Many.
Do the math. You're the IT guy. Come on.
Oh yeah. Well, here comes the old calculatrice.
So assuming you had Galaxy class starships, which the Daenerys is the rough equivalent of.
Only 533,000.
Yeah. So you need 533,000 Daenerys ships, or at least 533,000 trips with the Daenerys class ships. And so the fact that the Starfleet was trying to build that fleet of ships to help makes sense. They didn't articulate it well in Picard season 1, but it does make sense. Because there's no way that the Romulans had enough ships to evacuate. And that's just Romulus. That doesn't count Remus or any other inhabited planets that are in the general area.
Yeah.
They
really put the peril into place.
Yeah.
No, this emergency's like 15,000 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
max capacity, the fat one being 6,000. That's like if you're going on a mission.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could squeeze. You might even get a few more than 15,000, but everybody's going to be like wall to wall people. But basically, if all you're doing is picking people up with the transporters in mass and then getting them to another planet and then beaming them down, you just squeeze as many people as will fit in the hallways.
Yeah. It's on Memory Alpha as well, but it's in the original Enterprise D book, which is behind me.
Which technically isn't canon, but hey.
But yeah, 15,000 is the tweaked out if you need to.
But irregardless,
to go.
It would still, even if it's 15,000, it would take 500,000 trips.
I hate to be that guy, but irregardless is not a word. It's just regardless.
You know what's terrible?
Regardless.
Like the word ain't, it got used so much.
It is a word now, yeah.
Stupid word is in the dictionary.
No, he did not direct the immunity syndrome.
You would think so based on this image.
I believe it was the Doomsday Machine.
Right? He did do the Doomsday, but he directed 14 episodes. And thank you, Thomas, for the $1.99. You are the man. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't assume your gender. You are the person.
Yeah, somebody named Joseph Pevney did the immunity syndrome. Was the director of that one.
But yeah, so they need to get to the cloud butthole in order to survive. Which even when I was a kid, that's what I thought about. Was like, because Kirk was like, the aperture we came in through closed. That would be its mouth. There's another one. That would be its butthole. So they're trying to get to the cloud's butthole. That's
by process of elimination.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, Sulu, set a course for the butthole. And Sulu's like, oh yeah. Oh my.
Devil's anus, here I come.
So and they see some of the digestive system. And this is kind of an interesting. So again, you can tell that Mark, the writer, knows a little bit about Trek. He understands the basics of how this stuff works. So they established that the cloud's guts are made of antimatter, and that way Scotty can slice off a piece and use it to recharge the engines because they burned up most of their antimatter, keeping the shields at full strength when the teeth were trying to chew them up. And so I think that's a clever little plot complication to throw in there, and with a reasonable solution. And while and by the way, this is also great storytelling. Like we were talking about some of the problems with Ahsoka. Here's an example of the opposite of that, because with Ahsoka, unfortunately, Filoni just assumes you know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't bother to explain like Thrawn's relationship with Tindy, with Sabine, right? However, in Star Trek, we all know that the warp engines are powered by matter-antimatter reactors, and that you can move antimatter around in a stasis field and stuff. But they don't assume you know that. So Kirk asks, well, isn't antimatter really dangerous? And Scotty just says, well, we can put it in thing, and then we can move it around safely. And bam, problem solved. So they don't assume you know everything, but they assume you're intelligent enough to follow what's going on. And remember, again, and I know you predicted I would say this when we were watching, this is a show for kids, and they're talking about the threat of extinction of life on a planet, and they're talking about the properties of matter and antimatter.
Mm.
And
they're not playing dumb, or they're
they're not
treating you
dumbing
like dumb.
it down. They're not pretending that it's it's gasoline in space. No, it's and so it's actually really, really, and then it's like, well, what about the matter? Well, we can get matter from the planet, so it was like, dang, you guys are really thinking. And did Salty just make a gay joke?
I missed it if you did.
Yeah, if I did, I don't remember.
Went by me.
Yeah, did I make a gay joke? I don't know. So they slice off They slice off a little piece in order to get it into the warp engines, and Kirk and Scotty put it in. Look right here. It looks like it's a turd that they're beaming in.
Right. No, I like how here in a little bit we actually get to see kind of the inside of right below the nacelles, like they're in that.
Right.
Oh yeah. That hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This right is here.
Like, you didn't know that the Enterprise was a V8, right?
Yeah.
We basically,
it makes sense.
This is really our first look at a warp core. If you think about it, this is the first time.
Of a pre
in Trek canon. No, I'm just saying in all of Trek canon, this would be the first actual view of a warp core.
Yes, because we never really got to see a proper warp core until the TMP.
Right. But in TOS, we never saw the warp core. We just saw the engine room that was adjacent.
Right.
Here, we actually see the warp core for the first time. And, I think that's actually really cool. So, and imagine what this set would look like live action.
Right.
And honestly, I'm picturing it, and now picture the Strange New Worlds engineering set. It's not that dissimilar. They have the tubes going up and everything. Yeah. I think that's what they were going. I think somebody who designed the Strange New World set was basing it loosely off this.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
It's got like that kind of a gallery type.
Oh, because I said Sulu and going through the butt. Gotcha. Oh. Yeah. Well, it wasn't a gay joke as much as a George Takei joke.
And is it really a joke? Because never mind. Sorry.
And George Takei, it's so funny, and I know this is a sideline, but it's true. George Takei had a video that he put out, and I thought it was really funny, where he's going off about the whole expression where people would say that's so gay when they're trying to say something looks bad. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what? I really don't like that expression. I think it's insulting to, all the gays out there. And so here's what I'm going to offer. Instead of saying that's so gay, say that's so Takei.
That's so Takei.
And he said, I'm perfect. You want to make fun of me that way? Go for it. But don't say that's so gay. So I thought that was pretty classy of him. So
it's the only classy thing he's ever said. That's so Takei.
Not true. I really like the fact that he took a stand against the producers of Star Trek Beyond for making Sulu gay.
That was actually quite surprising.
Yeah, I thought so too. He was like, I never played him. He's like,
right.
Just because I'm.
I mean, there are plenty of things there are plenty of things I disagree with George about, but on some things, man, he has been right. And I definitely want to say, if I know somebody does something right, even if I think they're crazy, I want to call that out. And George Takei, when it came to that, man, I was happy to see that. Because we need people in the LGBTQ community to stand up against some of the LGBTQ madness, because that's the only way it's going to ever tone down. It's not going to tone down because straight people are upset.
Yeah,
right.
Anyway, back to the show. So we see the warp engines getting pounded by the. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of something else. So Kirk and Scotty put the glass turd into the warp core, and then run. And then that charges up the warp core. And so that's a nice little, even though you would call it filler, and it really was, it was just a random plot complication, but it was not only consistent with Star Trek, because and it was because they've actually go back to the original series, like even considering this guy directed the Doomsday Machine. When they bring
this episode felt a lot like the live action original.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But like in Doomsday Machine and other episodes, you bring shields to full power, and that is a huge drain on the ship's power systems. Yeah. You never ever do that unless you absolutely have to. And of course, going against the Doomsday Machine's anti-proton weapon, you have to. And here, avoiding getting the ship digested, they had to. Mm-hmm. And since they had to maintain it for so long, they drained out all the ship's power. but they found a viable replacement. So then they continue, they figure out where they think the brain is, and which is, I think what they were describing is this glob right here.
Yet the whole thing kind of looks like a brain.
I know, that's the thing. The whole thing does look like an MRI of a brain, but I'm thinking what McCoy was talking about was this glob right here. And the problem is that the dialogue doesn't really match what we're seeing on screen very well. However, they figure, well, if we go to the brain, and Kirk's like, well, we blow up the brain with some photon torpedoes and call it a day, and that'll save the planet. And then everybody's like, oh, but that would be killing an intelligent creature. And again, bringing a serious moral dilemma into a kid's show.
No, that's exactly what I said.
Yeah,
when we were watching it. Yeah.
So they, because do we kill this seemingly intelligent creature, or do we let all the people on this planet die?
And I just got to the subtitle. It's 5,000 children were just saved out of 82 million people on the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
And and Bob Wesley is really depressed about that, but he did what he could.
Yeah.
And by the way, think about that heavy note.
Well, that and
he kept his daughter back.
Yeah,
too.
you find out he kept his
his 11-year-old daughter is sitting right next to him, and it's like, that's serious.
Yeah.
So then Kirk says, hey, if it comes down to it, I think we need to kill the creature as opposed to letting the entire colony die. And then Spock figures out that, well, we may not have enough weaponry to take it out, but if we convert the entire Enterprise into energy, the result, and it's like, McCoy's like, I think you just suggested that we blow up the ship. He's like, well, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
So they're going to rig the Enterprise to self-destruct when they get to the brain, to destroy the cloud thing, which sucks for them, but also makes perfect sense. And so then Kirk has another conversation with Bob Wesley, and that's where we find out his daughter's with him.
Yeah.
No, this is Jason even brought this up on our watch along. This is a classic Star Trek. Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Right.
Yeah.
And because sacrifice the crew of the Enterprise versus an 82 million people. And again, they get the scale right. 82 million is a more realistic number for a colony.
Yeah.
And so that's to me, any good starship captain would be like, yeah, there's no choice. We do the self-destruct move because we got to save these people. Now,
Stanley, I believe so. Isn't that what you said in the past, Salty? Look at Stanley's last question.
Yes, these were. I watched them on Saturday mornings back in the 70s. And this was a Saturday morning cartoon, early morning. And it's amazing. I was 5 years old when I watched this show in first run. And I was, it's amazing that, it went this deep. And Martin, Crystalline Entity, same issue. But Crystalline Entity wasn't the animated series. That's my point. This is a children's show. And not a childish show like Discovery, a children's show. A show intended for kids.
Yeah.
But treated kids as basically intelligent enough and rational enough to hear these complex issues and deal with it.
Well, yeah, it's like that dude Robert Meyer Burnett's always screaming when he's doing his shows. Is like when he was a kid and he watched Star Trek, it wasn't because it was dumbed down for kids or stupid. It was because
it was Star
Trek. Think it was Star Trek. It was thought provoking, and they did the same thing here with the with this animated series.
Yeah, Patrick, exactly. But so for me, the best thing about when Star Trek the animated series was on was I got Star Trek 6 days a week instead of 5. Because I get the original series Monday through Friday, and then Saturday morning we get the animated series. but unfortunately, the animated series just only lasted for 2 seasons, and season 2 was really short.
Yeah.
But man, it was so good. But it was an expensive show to produce, and so they just couldn't continue. And it wasn't expensive because of the animation, obviously. It was expensive because they had almost the entire cast of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so, and by the way, this is, of course, also right when Star Trek is becoming popular in the early 70s. This is when Star Trek
syndication.
Yeah, this is when Star Trek, the original series, was really hitting its stride, when all of a sudden everybody was watching Star Trek. And so now there's a Saturday morning cartoon. But yeah. And yeah, Stanley, they could have gotten sound alikes, but it wouldn't have been the same. And how would you feel right now if they did an animated series based on, I don't know, what's a popular IP these days? Let's say an animated series based on The Expanse, and they just hired entirely new voice actors, none of the people from The Expanse to do the actual voices. And you'd think, well, why didn't you just get the actual actors? You know, that's what you would think.
Yeah.
And granted, the reason is money. And then you say, oh, those greedy corporate did it, you know. So they can't win.
No.
So they got 7 minutes. And Spock and Uhura come up with the zany idea of doing a Vulcan mind meld through the ship's sensors and routing it through communications. How that works, hey, now this is where it's a freaking cartoon. I don't know. You know, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Although, didn't I say something on? Well, I mean, we could always play back the recording, but I'm pretty sure I said something, Danny, to the effect that some of the really Looney Tunes stuff that's been in this animated series so far, people that swear by all the old stuff way more than any of the new stuff really need to check themselves at the door before.
Oh yeah, there's some crazy stuff.
Because there's some,
but
there's
the thing
some
is,
defective things.
The thing is, though, it's no crazier than some of the stuff we see in the live action classic Trek too.
No, but the upside that saves it all is the acting is better and the overall writing is better, even if there's a bunch of broken
nonsense
and non-consistent technobabble stuff.
Right. So Spock then does his magical mind meld with the creature and talks about how he's inside her and tiny, which, you know, yeah, when you hear that, I know it wasn't intended to be funny, but man, you know, if you heard the beginning of the show, it's like that. It's hard not to think about that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm inside you.
You know, I'm pretty sure during the reads for the lines,
somebody
Major Barrett was having a hard time because there's a point at which where the kind of voice she's using starts to break a little bit.
Yeah, she's like,
Well, it's like she started switching to actually being just, you know, Nurse Chapel or what's her face, Loxana Troy.
And so through the magic mind meld, through the sensors routed through audio, Spock and the Cloud talk for a minute about how, hey, you know, there's little life forms inside you, and on the planet, the round thing, and so they then the Cloud and Spock kind of switch brains for a second, so the Cloud can experience Spock's perspective for a second, and then Spock and they show pictures of Earth, and so then the Cloud says, "Okay, I'll go back home and not eat you."
I shared some fun trivia from the that book about those images from Earth.
Aren't they from other? They're from a different show, aren't they?
It's from Lassie. That's why
Yeah,
if you go
yeah.
back,
I saw
you
the
see
Lassie clip. I
you see
recognize
the dog and the two people. They're blanked out,
Yeah.
so you can't tell who that.
Yeah.
That's
That
from
clip
Lassie.
I recognized from Lassie. I remember the
Yeah.
Lassie cartoon, but the other kids, I'm trying to remember. They look awful. From those two kids right there.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
looks
I
really
know what that's
good.
from.
It's not Johnny Quest. But
Oh, I think it is.
you think it's Johnny
It's
Quest?
It's definitely going to be another Filmation show. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be one of those.
Yeah, but I swear if that's not Johnny Quest, yeah, it's like yeah.
But yeah, so I do think it's funny. Yeah, they went to the old catalog to save a little money there. But hey,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to fault them there. I think it's funny because Kirk goes, Uhura, here's what I want you to bring up. And what you missed was him going, bring up a clip from Lassie and another, and another clip from Johnny Quest. You know, those are royalty free, right?
Yeah.
So the Cloud decides not going to eat everybody and leaves, and the Enterprise comes out the butthole.
Yes. And hey, Mercer, you seem to always get here when we're right at the end. It's so weird. Every time.
Perfectly something timing.
Just as the Enterprise emerges from the butthole, Mercer is there.
Mercer makes his appearance.
So Twinkle teaches agrees it's Johnny Quest. So yeah, it does look a lot like an episode of Johnny Quest, but I can't quite place it. But I definitely recognized it from back then. The funny thing is, if you were a kid back then, it's like, oh, why did they just show a clip from the show I just watched? You know,
Probably, yeah.
So,
although on the other hand, it at least would make them feel like they're in the universe that they're also describing.
right. You know, what would have been funny though is if you see like He-Man whip out his sword. So that's filmation. Why not?
You know, yeah, Eternia. Although they wouldn't make He-Man for another. That's why I say they repurpose stuff from this for He-Man, definitely, because He-Man was 10 years after this.
Right. So there we go. One of our planets is missing. So it looks like you're up first.
I enjoyed this episode a lot. Even though I like. What did I give yesteryear? I gave it a 10. Right?
Yeah, you and I both gave yesteryear.
So I got to give this one a 9. Yeah, I like the story. It felt very Star Trek. It was funny while Jason and I were watching it. We were drawing comparisons to V'ger. You know,
wrong color though.
Yeah, but you know, so yeah, no, for 25 minutes, it's a really thought-provoking, very Star Trek-esque episode, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And no, Martin, thankfully, no Mormons today. So,
speaking of Mormons, Jason,
okay.
If any of us were a Mormon, it would be you.
He's a Quebecer. Come
on. I have some distant family in Quebec.
Well, you have 8 houses to hold all your wives. Come on, admit it.
It's
You got a wife.
harem.
You got a wife in each house. Admit it.
Yeah.
Almost like that show, Big Love. Right
on. Yeah, a surprisingly good episode. And just on that simple description, I know I gave the last episode an 8. This is a 9 for sure for me because it was not what I expected out of this cartoon. I was really surprised for 1973 and for such a short window of time to tell the story. And yeah,
it's amazing,
excellent story. Yeah,
this is the very definition of efficient storytelling, because this tells everything you would put in an hour-long Star Trek episode in 25 minutes, and you know, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Yes, you could poke fun at a couple of little things, but overall, this is classic Trek at its absolute best, minus the crappy animation. But I'm forgiving that because I forget. If I can give yesteryear a 10, to me, this is a 9.5. This is that. The only reason yesteryear edges it out is because yesteryear gave me the feels when it came to the death of a pet. This didn't quite hit me like that, but this one felt the most like Star Trek of I think the entire animated series probably. There's some other great episodes coming, don't get me wrong, but this one was like, if you could write this out to add 20 minutes worth of content and easily have an hour-long episode of the original series.
Oh yeah.
Just add a little backstory to Bob Wesley, put a fight or two between McCoy and Spock in there, and bam, stretch out the whole thing about getting the antimatter into the engines. Yeah, you could easily do that. But yeah, loved everything about it. And it was also, and I will tell you, when we talk about not just fan service, but fanfic, right? When fans are writing stuff, and one of the reasons I don't like it is fanfic tends to become very member-berry centric, right? And here we brought in a legacy character, Bob Wesley, but we didn't make a big deal out of his appearance. We didn't showcase it. It just happens to be some guy that Kirk knew from Starfleet. And if you don't remember the Ultimate Computer, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
But if you do remember the Ultimate Computer, it's kind of like, oh, nice, they brought him back.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. What I wouldn't like is if every episode had to have 17 references back to the original series. There are a couple of episodes that are dependent on the original series, like More Tribbles, More Troubles, which is coming, but most of the episodes don't. And I do believe as a Klingon Commander Kor makes an appearance in the animated series, if I remember correctly. So we'll get to see him again. But yeah, definitely a 9.5 for me. So you gave it an 8, Danny?
No.
Or
I'm sorry, what?
You gave it an 9, 8, right? Or I
gave it a 9.
Oh, you gave it a 9. So 9.5, so
9.3 or 4.
9. We'll say 9.3.
Yeah.
For our final score. So pretty darn good. Can't get out of 10. Out of what? 10.
Yeah.
And so I can't speak the praises of this series enough. It doesn't even make sense that an animated series from 1973 was this good.
Yeah.
It just does not make sense. So next week we'll have the Lorelei signal from the animated series. Now, as great as this episode was, now you want woke Trek? You're going to get it next week. The Lorelei signal is the woke episode of the animated series. This is the one and only time in Star Trek canon that Uhura takes command of the Enterprise.
Huh.
So,
as long as it ends better than whenever Deanna.
Oh yeah, she's not as bad as Troy. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's not my favorite episode, but but then after that we're going to get the More Troubles. So, but yeah, Lorelei signal and whatever they have in store for us for Lower Decks. Which unfortunately I won't be here, but I will at least record some comments for the stream. But I will be here on Saturday for us to watch the Lorelei signal because I can't wait to see your reaction to that one. Anyway, and so now you've got a bunch of work coming up. When are you going to get our logo done?
Can we talk about this after the show?
No.
You know what I'd rather talk about on air?
What's
Stuff
that?
we talked about